wheels turning, some of the leaves are turning brown, coming to gather you, gathering cherries off of the ground. And after the rainbow, after the day glows come over you, a bottle of wine and then a water.
Hey everyone, welcome to the SpookCast version 2, or season 2 as you prefer. In my previous video I've talked about, how I didn't feel so great, how I didn't really know if I was gonna keep up the podcast for now. Well, I've decided to say fuck this depression, and I'm just going to create because that's what makes me happy. So I'm sorry in advance if the next few podcasts are a bit, downer energy, or they're a bit on the sloppier side. I'm just slowly trying to get back into it, and I've decided that I really do like this background for the podcast. So this is just, my room, no fancy stuff, with my poster where I hide my background from my usual videos, which I don't know when the next one will be. I tried to make one in French this week. Again, I'm just trying my darndest to start creating again, start to feel better. But I think I'm slowly getting more into it. So that's gonna be fun. So I really have no subject this week. I just decided on a whim, like, I'm gonna do this. I don't care whether it's amazing or not. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna post it. I'll see how I feel about it. So I guess I can discuss. I guess I have a topic. I just thought about it right when I was listening to the beautiful voice of David Hess. May he rest in peace. I know he died a long time ago. It's just this song, it's by him, and it's one of the greatest song in exploitation history, at least. Not like horror history, but just like basically exploitation. If I think of a song in an exploitation film, with lyrics and good music, I always think of that. I think "Wait for the Rain" or "Road Leads to Nowhere" by David Hess from the wonderful Last House on the Left. And Last House on the Left, that's a funny, that's not a funny film. Of course, it's not a funny, hilarious film where you piss yourself watching it, but it's funny in the way that how I've learned to love and enjoy that film. It's not a film I watch often because it's a depressing film. It's dark, grim, realistic. The way it's shot is incredible, and it really it inspired my work way more than I thought. I'm always thinking about my next short films, even though it's really hard because all my friends are actually working. They have their own stuff to do now. My DOP is a big Hollywood. He's a big Hollywood gaffer now in Montreal. My other friend who's always acting is now doing stand-up comedy and working a lot and has a girlfriend. So rest in peace and my future work with him. But yeah, I have a couple other friends that are interested. So I don't know, but I'm working on stuff. But I always realize like how much Last House on the Left really influenced my work, mainly my 1 minute short films where it was just me and my boys doing a little action film, in the forest. Like the look and the color correction and the camera movement is really all inspired by Last House on the Left because it has this very documentary, really realistic style, and I really do quite enjoy that kind of style of filmmaking. And I've the early films of Wes Craven I really learned to love. Not his later work. I'm not a big fan of Scream, but Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite of the big slasher franchises, and honestly, it's a good one. I personally am a fan of that those early films, the Last House on the Left, the Hills Have Eyes, the first one is probably I like it better than than Last House. But yeah, also they mutually got respectable remakes. You know, I'm not a biggest remake fan, but I do enjoy the Last House on the Left remake, and the Hills Have Eyes remake was pretty good. I saw it a long time ago. I need to rewatch it. Same thing for the Last House on the Left remake too. But from what I remember, they're respectable remakes. They're not great, but but like the originals are like cinematically like great films. They're exploitation trash from the 70s that were brought into a modern era, which is really surprising because I don't think they'll remake Last House on the Left again, or I Spit on Your Grave in this day and age. Maybe if it's directed by a woman, because rape revenge films are fine if they're directed by women, but if it's directed by a man, it's disgusting and exploitation. But that's a topic for another day. You know, the double standard in the film industry. That's actually something I'd love to discuss about how hypocrite this entire like film industry is, because you know revenge is seen as this masterpiece of feminist cinema, and something like I Spit on Your Grave, which is they're basically the same genre, the same themes, is seen as this vulgar, exploitative. I guess I Spit on Your Grave is not really a good example, because I think it recently got the status of a pro woman film, probably because of the original title. But you know, it's an interesting discussion. I'll probably talk about it in a future episode because it's something that you know fascinates me, and I'm really purple. My white balance is kind of off because it's so dark in here. As you can see, it's getting dark. I only have a light right here and the orange light back there, so it's confusing the two, and it's making me very, very purple. But if you're only listening to the audio, you don't care about that. So yeah, today's topic, I didn't want to talk about Wes Craven, but that's just what happens. You know, you just go on a topic. That's what I like about this concept is I don't really have an idea. I just start shooting, and I just start spitting out stuff. That's what I enjoy from doing this, and it often makes it like the Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox podcast, which at the end of the day, I don't think I made any points or it made any sense, but it's interesting. I'll just brighten up. Nope, I'll brighten you up. Oh yes, perfect. So yeah, without any further ado, I actually thought of a topic. I like to talk about horror movies, but I enjoy horror, I enjoy cult, I enjoy exploitation cinema, but I also enjoy collecting all of that. And I wanted to talk about my favorite collector labels, because you know we all have. I think everyone that watches this, if they're not a collector, they're at least they at least got a couple DVDs or Blu-rays laying around, because they got quite common, and now they're so inexpensive that I think if you're a film fan, you at least have a couple DVDs or Blu-rays laying around. Maybe not a collection, but you have a couple ones. But if you're like me, which you probably are, because this is mainly a like collecting slash review channel, so you probably are into collecting. And there are very, very great labels that have been popping up in the last few years, really. And ever since I really started to get into it. So what got me into collecting? Well, what got me into collecting is the love and passion of film. Not just horror films, but just films in general. I Prior to this, I've always been a collector ever since I was, a young boy. It was either Legos or comic books or mangas during my youth. So, I've always enjoyed collecting. I've always also read and watched most of my the stuff I was collecting. So when I was collecting mangas, I mainly watched. I read all of them. Now I'm collecting movies. I watch most of my movies I just have a lot to get through. But I watch at least every movie once, and if I had it my way, I would watch them at least twice or three times just to get my opinion out on those films. But at least once. Not every movie right now I've seen or I've watched, but before my death, unless I die like tomorrow, I will have tried to watch every movie I ever buy. So I know I'm young to talk about my my I forgot the name in English. I'll quickly Google it. Retirement. So I'm planning a big retirement watch party when I retire, and if I retire, because my generation will sadly probably not retire. But yeah, every movie in this room I've tried to watch at least once, preferably twice. And I've recently been rewatching some movies I watched like a long time ago. So I got into collecting movies after my last thing that I was collecting, which was retro video games. I really got into that, but I felt like I was, spending too much money on stuff I wasn't playing. So I still have that collection. If you guys are interested, I still try to collect video games. They're just retro. They just got so expensive. Like it's like buyable. But at the same time, I just spent like $28 on this Blu-ray, and like I was complaining when I stopped mainly collecting video games, that I didn't want to like pay $20 or $30 per game. But I don't know. It just yeah, it just changed. But I was collecting video games, and I got most of the stuff I really wanted. So like if right now my video game collection, I'm happy with them, especially since I don't really have time anymore to really play a lot of video games with work, this YouTube channel, and my 12 other jobs. But I'm happy. I'm happy with watching movies. But if I have some downtime, will probably pop in a video game. Especially for a while, I really got back into Tetris, but never mind. So I got into collecting video games. But even when I was collecting video games, I was buying movies because I loved movies. Ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to, make movies. Still have some old cringy ass, like shitty little shorts I did when I was a very young lad. I had no friends back then. I now I have a couple friends that are into, making movies or stuff like that. Back then, zero, nada. No, so I did everything myself. That's how I learned how to basically do everything. College helped, yeah, but like if I didn't go to college for television and film, I would probably still be doing this right now. Just not on maybe not on like a $2,000 camera with $1,000 lens. Maybe something less, less expensive. So yeah, collected video games for a while. That got too expensive, and I was super young, so I didn't really have like money. I started collecting old school video games at like 12, and like back then, $20 was a big deal. But back then, $20 you could get 3, 4 good games, like the common stuff, but good games, enough to keep you playing for a while. And then slowly, I got a little bit more money, started to work, went to the States, and that's really when everything started. I went to Las Vegas with my parents at like 13, 14, and when you're a young lad, Las Vegas isn't really a great place because they don't have anything for kids. So we did this typical stuff. So the magic shows, the 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 strip, the like the food. Again, I don't know what we did, but like we visited Las Vegas, and we took 2 days, 3 days actually. Drove across the desert, went to California, Hollywood, um, went to Universal Studios. I loved film prior to that. but I really got the the itch at that point. Universal Studios. I'm not a big fan of you know um, roller coasters. I'm first of all I'm terribly afraid of heights, so no roller coasters for me. But I really did love the studio tour where they show you some of their most iconic movies. And I already knew I loved horror because I was watching a lot of James Rolfe stuff. I still do. It's funny because it's been like 12 years since then, and he's really into classic and classic horror films. So I was watching him, getting the basic learning about the Frankenstein's, Dracula's, especially with Monster Madness. That really got me into horror films. So I went to Universal. I saw the behind the scenes of Psycho, Jaws. They remake them for like attractions, but they pretend like it's the actual like Psycho house, and it probably is. But Jaws. What else did Universe? King Kong. Such amazing like classic films. So I've done that. Then we go to the store. I buy stuff. I bought a fake bloody hand, and I shot some shorts in the hotel room, and I still have the DVD somewhere of the entire studio tour, which would be fun to watch, but I really have no idea where that is. I'll probably never find it. So yeah, that was a good time. Went back to Vegas, and I had the itch for films, especially classic horror films, because I was just at the Universal Studio Tour. So that's what that is, classic films. So my parents, my dad, watching a lot of Pawn Stars and like those types of show at that point. That again, that's old as fuck. Thinking about it, like I was watching American Pickers and Pawn Stars like a long time ago. So that's old. But Las Vegas, being Las Vegas, has a shit ton of pawn shops, flea markets, and one day they brought us to a movie store where I found Evil Dead 2 and King Kong, the original. I think I still have that Evil Dead 2 DVD because I never really upgraded. Yes, I never upgraded. I don't think I have Evil Dead 2 on Blu-ray. I have. Oh yeah, I do. It's right there. Tanz der Teufel. It's the German Necronomicon edition. But this. So oh shit! I can still see the store. Music for less in Las Vegas. $10. At that point, that wasn't too bad because Canadian money, and it was not shit like it is today. But 7/20/2008. It's been 12 years, guys, since I've had this DVD in my collection, and I still own it. I don't want to get rid of it. This is basically what got me into this this rabbit hole. If it wasn't for this goddamn thing, I wouldn't have this. So this really got me into the horror collecting, especially 80s, 70s horror. Like this is a good movie. All of you probably know Evil Dead 2. I'm not saying anything controversial, but yeah, goddamn. So parents probably I had to, nag them to buy me Evil Dead 2 and King Kong, which were both $10. Thinking about it, that's hilarious. It's the original Anchor Bay. Holy shit, this is old, guys. This, yeah, with the little slip. So that's really what got me into collecting this goddamn movie. I blame you for thousands and thousands of dollars. Fuck you. If it wasn't for this, what would I have? I would have other expensive hobbies. It's just how I am. Photography, videography. That's all my hobbies are expensive. Blu-rays and DVDs are probably the least expensive hobby I have. which is sad because that's about like $2,000 a year on that. Well, so yeah, that got me started. Kept collecting video games. Went to conventions with my brother, and I got fed up with it. Too expensive. It got too mainstream. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying with VHS right now. You guys, there's gonna be a big bubble. It's gonna blow up like video games. Like even now, I'm pretty sure like NES games aren't as expensive or in demand as they were back in 10 years ago, because people were like, because they got popular, because people that played with them as young kids slowly got more and more money. They were nostalgic. Bam, bam, bam. We saw that, and then Super Nintendo got expensive. Then N64, and I think right now, like N64 and GameCube are getting expensive. So it's a cycle, and I see that with VHS. I love VHS. I would love to have some rare, big box, awesome VHS, but it's a bubble right now. It got popular. Got a few documentaries, a few YouTubers, Instagrammers, whatever, got that popular. It's gonna blow up. It's gonna blow up, guys. No, VHS is gonna get really, really is gonna die real quick. But yeah, so video games got too expensive. I got tired. I had some jobs, went to college, whatever. Had less time to play video games. That's just what happened. I went to Japan. I bought more video games than movies. So I still like buying old school video games. I still try to collect them. It's just not if they're too expensive. So yeah. So when really my collecting collecting hardcore like today started when I was 18. Yep. When I was 18, got my car. No, I got my car at like 20. Had a license, had a phone, had the internet, I had a job. That's the main thing. I had a job. I got my first job. I know. Well, I got my first job at 14, but I got my first job at 18. Because 14 you had to. In between 14 and 18, I did weird, just stuff that kids do to get money. Not selling drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. So I got my first job. A&W. Fast food chain in Canada. But it got me money. I had less things to pay than right now, so all my money was like income, basically. And then I got crazy. Started to go to conventions, horror conventions, started to buy on sale, and this is how it started. It all started, and then it kept going, because you get more paying jobs as you get older, you finish college, you're like, yeah, I have a degree, hire me, give me more money, and then slowly I started building up this entire collection. Now, because Canada is a terrible country when you have a hobby that involves spending money, because everything's more expensive here, right? DVDs, Blu-rays, camera equipment. Oh, that one hurts. That one really hurts. Blu-rays also really hurt. You see like Scream Factories for like $20. Arrow Videos, 25. Vinegar Syndrome, 22. Canada, it's Scream Factory, 32. Arrow Video, 45. Vinegar Syndrome, 38 to 50. It's fucking, that's insane. But they got more expensive. But wait, this entire rant was just because I originally wanted to talk about my favorite labels. I just wanted to put some context so you guys we can know each other better, you and me. So that's the context how I started collecting. Now, here are my favorite labels. As you know, I'm more into the obscure 70s, 60s to 80s obscure stuff shot on film from anywhere in the world. Mainly Europe. I I just love European trash cinema. I love Italian trash cinema. I love German. I love French, English. I just love European trash cinema because it's the same trashy films as like their American counterparts. They're just done more beautifully. Also, the dubbing adds a layer of hilariousness, and they're intriguing. They always intrigued me because I'm a I don't know at the end of the day I'm still like a film nerd, and I like beautiful images, and that's European trash cinema. If I wasn't as much into like the making of the image part, would probably like 80s. I would probably prefer American uh, genre films, but I still do because my favorite label right now is Vinegar Syndrome, and they mainly put out American, some Canadian, more recently Spanish films, but at first they were only American films, and I love their stuff. They really go out of their way to put out a great product, great quality of like films you wouldn't think would have such good treatment, like what I showed earlier, the Candy Snatchers. Like, who remembers the Candy Snatchers? Like, last year they released Hell Comes to Frogtown, probably the best release, like, looks of the year. They put out so much work and so much great content for movies that truly a lot of times don't deserve that much attention, but you know I like them. I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of films that Vinegar Syndrome has put out. Like Pets. Pets was one of my favorites. I didn't know what it was. I just saw it. Cover looked cool. Read the story. Sounds interesting. Watched, popped it in. Amazing film. So incredible. Um, Death Machines. Incredible. Like a lot of their titles are so great. Recently, The Vineyard. I heard about The Vineyard. I mainly hear of Vinegar Syndrome's like releases. I mainly hear of the film because it's been out of print on DVD and everyone wants it. And then Vinegar Syndrome puts it out. It gets less expensive, and you can watch a good quality with a bunch of features. So that's mainly how I hear about them. Like so many good stuff. The Vineyard, that Australian one with a lot of melting. I forgot the name. I can probably look. Yeah, Body Melt. Don't have my glasses. Body Melt is a great film. They've put out films by with Paul Naschy, a couple like Spanish giallos. Um, Ted V. Michaels. Evil of the Night is an incredible film. You know, a couple of Ted V. Michael ones. The Suckling, Sudden Fury, like so many good titles. And I never like I always blind buy them because I trust Vinegar Syndrome's like not I'm not gonna say quality control, as in the movie they select, but in the image they have amazing quality control. All their releases look beautiful, but like I trust their releases, so you know I give them a shot, and more often than not I am pleasantly surprised. But that's for like American and really obscure films. My favorite company for anything else, Italian, Asian, the rest of the my releases, American, even some more American like classic, obscure or trash or exploitation cinema, is of course Aero Video, which in Canada are so expensive that I don't buy them ever. So how come I have so many of them? They're British sales because their prices are always low, and Canadian dollars are always at least twice the value of the Great British Pound. So like if a release is 10 British pound, it's not always times 2, but more often than not it's close to that. So it's like 10 British pounds, it's like 16 to 18 dollars Canadian. And if you compare that to our prices, which are absurd, insulting, they're like 35 to 45 to even 50 to like Some of their releases are like $80. It's a joke, but so you buy them on their sale. You're probably like, but you're not in Britain. You would be correct. I have region-free player, which honestly, for any serious collector, I highly recommend a region-free player. You will thank me later, because the best releases, sorry, they're rarely region 1. Unless you're talking Scream Factory, Blue Underground, Vinegar Syndrome, like all of those releases are great. But the Brits got some good stuff. Arrow, 88 Films, got a couple of those, also great. Grindhouse releasing, before I forget, but they don't release a lot of stuff. They're up there. But yeah, the Brits, 88 Films, Arrow, the Germans. The Germans got some of the best stuff out there. Just throwing it out there. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to praise Vinegar Syndrome, Arrow Video, Blue Underground, Grindhouse Releasing, and Scream Factory, because they make some absolutely great products. And as a collector, I am truly pleased. As a fan of the obscure, bizarre, trash cinema, I am greatly pleased with everything that they've been putting out. All these great companies we are lucky to have today, which still care about physical media, because all of the mainstream ones, let's be honest, they stopped giving a fuck a long time ago. So at least we've got some companies that care about us. And with that, see you guys next time.